The envelope is sitting on the table. The whole room is holding its breath. And when they finally flip it open, it says number 11. That's it. That's the moment Golden State Warriors fans had been dreading, hoping against, praying wouldn't happen. No miracle jump. No lottery magic. Just cold, hard reality. Pick number 11. And now, the clock is ticking on one of the most important decisions this franchise has made in years. Because here's the thing. This isn't just a draft pick. This is the moment that could define what the Warriors become after Stephen Curry. This is the moment that could either give Golden State a new chapter, or leave them stuck in no man's land, too good to rebuild, too weak to compete. The pressure is real. The stakes are massive. And the name they call on draft night could change everything. So buckle up. Because we are about to break down exactly what happened at the lottery, exactly what it means, and exactly which 5 players the Warriors should be locking their eyes on right now. One of these names is going to be wearing a Golden State jersey. The question is, which one? Stay with me. This is going to be good. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's paint the full picture so you really feel what this moment means. The Golden State Warriors have had one of the most extraordinary runs in NBA history. 4 championships. A dynasty that redefined how basketball is played. Stephen Curry, arguably the greatest shooter to ever touch a basketball, changed the entire sport. The Warriors didn't just win. They made the whole league copy them. Every team started hunting shooters, spacing the floor, pushing pace. Golden State built something that nobody had ever seen before. But dynasties don't last forever. And this past season told a very painful story. The Warriors finished 37 wins and 45 losses. Let that sink in for a second. This is the same franchise that once went 73-9. The same franchise that went to 6 straight NBA Finals. And now, they're sitting at 37-45, missing the playoffs entirely, watching other teams fight for championships while they're staring at lottery odds. How did we get here? Injuries. Age. Roster construction issues. The game passed them by just a little bit. And now they're at this awkward crossroads. Curry is still one of the best players on the planet, but the window is narrowing. Every passing season, the clock ticks louder. So when the NBA draft lottery rolled around, every single Warriors fan was sitting there with the same thought: please, please give us something to work with. Please give us a chance to jump up, to land one of those elite prospects, to give Steph one more real shot. They needed magic. And magic didn't show up. Let's talk about the lottery night itself. Because the drama was real. The lottery determines the top 4 picks in the draft. Everything after that falls in reverse order of how bad teams finished. The Warriors, sitting at that 11th slot, had a 77.6% chance of staying right there. Not great odds for a jump. But still, 9.4% chance to sneak into the top 4? You take that every time. And a 2% shot at the number 1 pick? You dream about that. The lottery night comes. The ping-pong balls are drawn. The names start getting called. One by one, teams either jump up or fall back. The Warriors are waiting. Fans are watching every single card get flipped. And then it happens. Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum steps to the podium. Golden State's representative in the room, Assistant General Manager Larry Harris, is sitting there, hands probably sweating, trying to look calm. The Warriors did not move. Number 11. That's where they are. That's where they stay. The 77.6% probability played out exactly as the math said it would. No miracle. No lucky bounce. Just the cold math of the lottery saying, not this time, Golden State. The room in San Francisco exhales, but not in relief. In disappointment. And now the real work begins. Here is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Because here is something most casual fans don't fully appreciate. Picking 11th this year is actually not a disaster. In most years, the 11th pick produces a role player. Maybe a solid rotation guy. Someone useful but not transformative. But this draft, this 2026 draft, is different. Scouts, analysts, and front offices around the league are calling this one of the deepest, most talented draft classes in years. The talent doesn't just stop at the top 4. It runs deep. Shockingly deep. And that means the Warriors, even sitting at 11, could come away with a genuine starter. Maybe even a future cornerstone. Think about that. Pick number 11. And you could still walk away with a guy who changes your team's trajectory. The question is, who? Right now, there are 5 names that keep coming up when people talk about Golden State and the 11th pick. 5 players who could be wearing that Golden State blue and gold come draft night. 5 futures, 5 possibilities, 5 very different kinds of hope. We are going to go through all 5 of them. We are going to tell you what makes each one exciting, what makes each one risky, and why each one could work or blow up in the Warriors system. Let's start with the man who has basically become the fan favorite. The guy that Warriors fans have already fallen in love with before he's even been drafted. Number 5 on our list, Nate Aement. Now, before we get into Aement, I want to be clear. This is the wild card. This is the boom or bust guy. The prospect who could end up being the steal of the draft, or the pick that haunts Warriors fans for a decade. And the reason he's so fascinating is because he's so complicated. Nate Aement is a freshman out of Tennessee. He stands 6'10". He can handle the ball, he can score from multiple levels, he has the kind of offensive skill set that makes scouts' eyes light up. When people talked about him coming out of high school, they were using words like star. They were saying this kid could be a top 5 pick. And then he actually played his freshman season, and it was messy. Look at the numbers and you'll see exactly why teams are torn. In the same season, Aement had 11 games where he scored 20 or more points. 11 times, he looked like a future NBA star. But in that same season, he also had 12 games where he couldn't make a single three-pointer. 12 games of completely going cold. That's the Aement paradox. The ceiling is enormous. The floor is terrifying. For the Warriors, this is a genuine conversation. Do they play it safe? Or do they swing for the fence? If Aement puts it all together at the NBA level, if the coaching, the system, the development unlocks him, you might have a 6'10" offensive weapon that teams have no answer for. But if it doesn't work out, you just spent your highest lottery pick in years on a project. And with Curry's window still theoretically open, spending your pick on a project is a massive risk. Aement is a guy you take if everything else falls differently than you expected. If the board breaks a certain way, if the players you really wanted are gone, then Aement becomes the moonshot play. High risk, high reward. Remember his name. Keep it in the back of your mind. Number 4. Kareem Lopez. Now we are getting into seriously exciting territory. Because Kareem Lopez is one of those prospects that makes you stop what you're doing and just watch. Here's the setup. Lopez is 19 years old. He was born in Mexico. He's playing in the NBL, that's the National Basketball League in Australia and New Zealand, as part of their Next Stars program, which has produced players like LaMelo Ball and Dyson Daniels. Let me say that again. The same pipeline that produced LaMelo Ball. That program. And Lopez is 6'8", weighs 220 pounds, and has a 7-foot wingspan. He looks like someone built an NBA player in a lab. But wait. It gets better. Remember that scouting trip that Warriors general manager Mike Dunleavy and assistant GM Larry Harris took to watch Lopez play in New Zealand back in January? They flew out there specifically to see this kid. And what did Lopez do in that game? He scored 32 points. On 11 of 13 shooting. 9 of 12 from the free throw line. 8 rebounds. 2 blocks. In a 2-point victory. The Warriors brass watched that game live. You think that didn't leave a mark? Lopez is the best prospect Mexico has ever produced for the NBA. That's not a small thing. He is physically already close to NBA ready. His motor is elite. His defensive instincts, his athleticism, his ability to get downhill and force contact, it's all there. The question marks are real though. His jump shot is still inconsistent. His ability to create off the dribble needs work. At 19, there's still development ahead of him. He isn't a finished product. But here's the thing about being 19, you're not supposed to be finished. You have time. And when your raw materials look like this, the size, the athleticism, the motor, the work ethic, teams invest in that. Teams bet on what you could become, not just what you are right now. Multiple mock drafts have connected Lopez directly to Golden State at 11. ESPN, USA Today, Yahoo Sports. They've all drawn that line. And when you consider that the Warriors' own front office watched him play in person, that connection starts feeling like more than coincidence. Lopez is the bet on upside. He might not be ready to star immediately, but in 2 or 3 years, he could be something special. The question for Golden State is whether that timeline works with what they need right now. Which brings us to the next guy on our list, and this is where the conversation shifts dramatically. Number 3, Labaron Fillain Jr. If Lopez is the bet on the future, Fillain is the bet on right now. This is the player who could come in and immediately make the Warriors better. And the timing of that matters enormously. Let me paint you a picture of what Labaron Fillain Jr. did at Alabama this past season, because it is genuinely remarkable. As a sophomore, Fillain averaged 22 points per game, 5 assists per game. He shot 50.1% from the field. He shot 39.9% from 3. He was named an All-American. The Ringer called him a gritty and wiry lead guard who has a right play mentality, meaning he always makes the smart play, but who is also more than capable of taking over and cooking defenders at all 3 levels. The jump he made from his freshman to his sophomore year was jaw-dropping. As a freshman, he averaged 10 points and 3.8 assists. 1 year later, 22 points and 5 assists. That's not a normal leap. That's a player figuring it out and accelerating at a terrifying speed. Here's why Fillain fits the Warriors specifically. Think about what Golden State has needed for years. They need someone who can handle the ball when Curry rests. They need someone with creation ability, someone who can break down defenders off the dribble, someone who can run an offense. Brandon Podziemski is a solid combo guard, but he's a different type of player. Fillain is different. He's shifty. He's crafty. He knows how to manufacture buckets. One scout compared him to a certain former Warriors guard, Jordan Poole. Remember what Jordan Poole meant to Golden State? That scoring punch off the bench, that ability to create his own shot, that offensive firepower that teams struggled to stop. Fillain could bring that energy. And unlike Poole, he's got better team-first instincts. But nothing is perfect, and Fillain has a real concern attached to him: his size. He stands 6'2½". He weighs 176 pounds. In the NBA, where wings are 6'7" and guards are 210 pounds of muscle, that frame is going to get tested hard. Will bigger players be able to bully him? Will he struggle defensively against more physical opponents? That question is why some teams have him falling past where his production says he should go. He deserves to be a top 10 pick based on what he did this year. But the frame scares people. For Golden State, this is a fascinating gamble. They've historically tried to pair Curry with bigger, sturdier guards. Fillain doesn't exactly fit that blueprint. But what he does bring, the scoring, the playmaking, the basketball IQ, might be too good to pass up if he's sitting there at 11. The Ringer already mocked him to the Warriors. And the reasoning makes a lot of sense. If Fillain is there when Golden State is on the clock, this pick becomes very, very tempting. Number 2, Adday Mara. Now, this is the name you might not have heard as much about. And that's exactly why we need to talk about him. Because Adday Mara might be the most quietly fascinating prospect connected to Golden State right now. Mara is a center. He stands 7'3". Without shoes, by the way. Measured 7'3" at the NBA combine. His wingspan is 7'6". Let me put that in perspective for you. He is a human skyscraper with arms that stretch nearly from one side of a lane to the other. And this is where it gets really interesting. Mara was Yakel Lindborg's teammate at Michigan. They won a national championship together. So both Lindborg and Mara were on the same roster, which means Golden State could potentially be looking at 2 players from the same championship program. What makes Mara special? Well, when you are 7'3" with a 7'6" wingspan and you know how to use your body, rim protection comes naturally. Mara is the kind of center who changes shots just by standing there. He averaged 12 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 2.6 blocks per game for the Wolverines. And at the combine, he didn't just look like a big lumbering tree. He moved better than people expected. He tested as more agile than scouts anticipated. He made 12 of 25 threes in the shooting drill, showing some range. Now here's why the Warriors are specifically thinking about this. Al Horford is a free agent. Kristaps Porzingis is a free agent. Golden State could potentially lose both of their big men in the same offseason. If that happens, they have a massive hole in the middle. And Mara is the kind of player who could fill that void. The comparison people are making. Think Donovan Clingan. Think Zach Edey. Big, physical centers who found ways to impact winning even in a modern, fast-paced NBA that supposedly doesn't value centers anymore. Both of those guys have figured it out. Mara could follow the same path. The risk with Mara is simple. Will that 7'3" frame be able to keep up in the open court? The NBA moves at a different speed than college. Can he defend on the perimeter when the game spreads out? Those are legitimate questions. But here's the bottom line. If Mara is available at 11, the Warriors front office is absolutely going to have a serious conversation about him. His rim protection alone would transform Golden State's defense overnight. And in a draft where the Warriors need to address multiple needs, having a potential starting center fall to them would be a gift. The bigger question, and this is what makes the whole situation so tense, is whether Mara even makes it to 11. Several analysts believe he might go in the top 10. If the right team at 9 or 10 decides they need a rim protector, Mara is gone before Golden State ever has the chance to call his name. Which means the Warriors might have to sweat this one out until the very last second. And that's the kind of drama that makes draft night unforgettable. And now, the one. The consensus. The player that Warriors fans have been talking about for months. The prospect who almost everyone agrees is the perfect fit. Number 1. Yakel Lindborg. Say that name out loud. Yakel Lindborg. Because by the time this draft is over, you might be saying it a whole lot more. Lindborg is a forward out of Michigan. 6'8" 3/4", 241 pounds. A wingspan of 7'4". He is built like someone specifically designed to play in the NBA. Long, strong, physical, versatile. But here's what makes his story truly remarkable, and this is where you need to pay close attention, because this is one of the most incredible journeys in college basketball history. Lindborg was not a blue-chip recruit coming out of high school. He wasn't getting offers from Duke and Kentucky and Kansas. He was a nobody. A completely overlooked kid who nobody thought was going to make it to the highest levels of the sport. He ended up going to community college. Then he transferred, went through the junior college system, found his footing. Eventually he got to UAB, a mid-major program, and started playing serious college basketball. At UAB, he became one of the best defensive players in the American Athletic Conference. He won Defensive Player of the Year twice. He showed he could affect games on that end. But was he ready for the NBA? Most scouts said no. Not yet. Too raw offensively. Too limited as a creator. And then he transferred to Michigan for his final college season. And everything changed. Lindborg didn't just play well at Michigan. He led them to a national championship. He was a consensus first-team All-American. He finished second in the entire country in box plus minus, which is a statistical measure of how much better a team is when you're on the floor. Second in the whole nation. Out of every player in college basketball, only one guy was more impactful. He improved his three-point shooting from 35% to 37%. He averaged 14 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. He was the engine of one of the best teams in the country. And the Warriors have been watching closely. Every mock draft, every projection, every analyst that connects Golden State to a player at 11, the first name they go to is Lindborg. He keeps showing up in Warriors mock drafts over and over again. He fits the system. He fits the culture. He fits the timeline. Here's why Lindborg is such a perfect match for Golden State specifically. Steve Kerr's Warriors have always loved experienced, versatile, team-first players. They don't need volume scorers. They need guys who make the right play, who can guard multiple positions, who understand basketball at a high level. Lindborg checks every single one of those boxes. His defensive versatility is off the charts. He can guard small forwards. He can slide down and guard power forwards. He has the length to challenge shots at the rim. He reads the game beautifully on that end. And offensively, in Kerr's system, Surrounded by Curry's gravity pulling defenders from everywhere, Lindborg would have open looks, open cuts, open threes. He wouldn't need to be the guy. He would just need to be excellent at the things he's already excellent at. The comparison people keep making is to players like Draymond Green in terms of role, not ability, but in terms of what he provides. The glue. The connector. The player who doesn't show up in the box score the way stars do, but whose impact is felt in ways that make teams dramatically better. But here's the catch. And this is the catch that makes some teams hesitate. Lindborg is 23 years old right now. He will be 24 before he plays a single NBA game. For a draft pick, that's old. Most first-round picks are 19 or 20. When you're drafting someone who is already 23, you're asking yourself a different question than usual. You're not asking, what will this player become? You're asking, what this player already is. Is that good enough? The comparisons to older prospects who flamed out are real. Chris Duarte was 24 when he was the 13th pick in 2021. He had a decent rookie year and then faded. There are examples throughout NBA history of older prospects who looked great in college and then just never made the leap. But, and this is important, there are also reasons to believe Lindborg is different. His arc is unique. He didn't get here through typical channels. His basketball education came from years of grinding through community college, through mid-major programs, through earning everything he has. He understands the game at a deeper level than most players his age because he had to figure it out the hard way. And his physical tools don't care how old he is. That 7'4" wingspan doesn't shrink because he's 23. That defensive IQ doesn't disappear. The shooting improvement he showed, from 35% to 37%, with more volume, doesn't go away. For a Warriors team that needs someone who can contribute right now, who doesn't need 2 years of development before they're useful, Lindborg is the answer that makes the most sense. He would walk into the Warriors system and immediately be a factor. Day one. That's why he's number one on this list. That's why mock draft after mock draft keeps landing on him. That's why Warriors fans have made him their draft crush. Now let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. Because picking 11 is just one part of this story. There's a whole other dimension to what the Warriors are dealing with right now. The Warriors could trade this pick. That's been the subject of real conversations inside the organization. General Manager Mike Dunleavy has been public about this. He said the Warriors could make a major move with the number 11 pick rather than use it to select a player. That's not nothing. That's the GM saying the door is open. And when you hear about the Giannis Antetokounmpo rumors swirling around the league, you understand exactly what Dunleavy means. Giannis is one of the most dominant players on the planet. He's a 2-time MVP and a Finals MVP. The Milwaukee Bucks are in a transitional period, and there are real conversations about whether Giannis might be available via trade. But here's what's fascinating. ESPN's Mark Spears reported that the Warriors would actually prefer to keep the number 11 pick rather than use it as the centerpiece of a Giannis trade. Read that again. They want to keep the pick, even with Giannis potentially on the market. That tells you how much they value what they can get at 11 in this particular draft class. That's a strong statement about how loaded this class is. When you'd rather keep your pick than use it to pursue a 2-time MVP, even if the full package would include other assets, that pick is worth something real. Of course, everything can change between now and draft night on June 23rd and 24th. Trades happen. Players fall unexpectedly. A team surprises everyone by taking someone nobody predicted. The basketball world moves fast and it moves unpredictably. But right now, in this moment, here is where things stand. The Warriors have the 11th pick. They have a handful of realistic and genuinely exciting options. And they have a front office that knows exactly what's at stake. This isn't just about filling a roster spot. This is about the bridge between the Curry era and whatever comes next. This is about giving Steph one more real piece to work with while simultaneously building for the future. That's an incredibly difficult balance to strike. And the player they select at number 11 is going to be a statement about exactly what kind of team Golden State intends to be. Let's bring it all home now. Let's recap exactly what we know and lay out exactly how this thing is likely to play out. The Warriors are picking 11th in one of the deepest draft classes in recent memory. They went 37 and 45 this season. They missed the playoffs. They have an aging Stephen Curry who is still incredible but whose best years are behind him. They have Steve Kerr locked in as their coach on a contract extension, which removes at least one major uncertainty heading into the offseason. At 11, the consensus favorite to land in Golden State blue and gold is Yakel Lindborg, the Michigan forward who led his team to a national championship, who has NBA size and length and defensive versatility, who is already 23 but who some believe is ready to contribute from day one. Every major mock draft keeps sending him to the Warriors. The Warriors' culture fits him perfectly. The timing makes sense. Right behind him on the list of possibilities is Labaron Fillain Jr., the Alabama guard who made one of the biggest single-season jumps in college basketball, going from good to elite in 1 year, averaging 22-5 and shooting nearly 40% from three. He's the playmaking guard the Warriors desperately need. He's young and still improving. But his slight frame at 176 pounds is going to make some teams hesitate. Then there's Adday Mara, the 7'3" center for Michigan who could become an immediate rim protection answer if the Warriors lose their big men in free agency. He might not even be there at 11, which is its own kind of exciting pressure. Kareem Lopez is the long-term investment, the 19-year-old Mexican forward who wowed Warriors brass in person during that January scouting trip to New Zealand, who has all the physical tools and athleticism you could want, but who still needs development time. And finally, Nate Aement is the high-risk, high-ceiling wild card, the 6'10" Tennessee freshman with electric scoring ability and massive inconsistency. The pick you make if you're feeling bold and you believe in your ability to develop raw talent. Here is the real question underneath all of this. The question that Warriors fans need to sit with between now and June 23rd. Is the 2026 NBA draft the beginning of Golden State's rebuild? Or is it the last piece they add before making one more push in the Curry era? Because depending on how you answer that question, the right pick changes completely. If you're rebuilding, you take the youngest player with the highest ceiling. You take Lopez. You take Aement. You accept that the next couple of seasons might be painful, but you come out the other side with a real foundation. If you're trying to compete right now, if you believe Curry has 2 or 3 more years at a high level and you want to maximize that window, then you take Lindborg. You take the experienced, ready-now player who can contribute immediately. You bet on the present. And if you're somewhere in the middle, if you're trying to do both at the same time, to compete now and build for later, then Fillain is your guy. Young enough to be part of the future. Skilled enough to help right now. 3 different philosophies. 3 different answers. And the Warriors have to pick one. The clock is ticking. June 23rd is coming fast. And somewhere out there right now, Yakel Lindborg is training. Labaron Fillain is working on his frame. Kareem Lopez is putting up shots in New Zealand. Adday Mara is studying film. Nate Aement is trying to prove the doubters wrong. One of them is going to get that call. One of them is going to hear their name. One of them is going to put on a Golden State Warriors hat and walk across that stage into one of the most storied franchises in basketball history. And for the Warriors, for Steph Curry, for the organization, for every single fan who has watched this team go from dynasty to lottery and is desperately hoping the next chapter is a good one, that moment can't come fast enough. Pick 11. One number. One night. One decision. It's all coming on June 23rd. Don't look away. And if you made it all the way through this breakdown, you are exactly the kind of fan who is going to feel this draft night in your bones. Subscribe right now so you don't miss a single update between now and then. Because this story is just getting started.